important to understand this, even in all your shooting, is that yes, people will take your sides for stupidity, and you kind of sometimes have to listen and see this from the other side of the other person, because you could be so much in your head that you don't realize that this is what it is. That people might take your silence for stupidity. Like for example, when you see things transpiring or people doing certain type of things, you don't say anything, or you don't come forth, and you're not like very verbose, and you go in their face and stuff like that. And in your head, you're not doing it out of fear, out of weakness, or anything like that. You're doing it because you know it's fruitless. You know what I mean? Like, you know that it's a fruitless fight. You understand how people, they do things primarily from the perspective that they're trying to get a reaction up out of you, so that you will react to them in some way, shape, or form. You know that they want your attention. You know that they're doing, all they're doing is attention seeking behavior half of the time, and they want to get you embroiled in some type of drama or some back and forth with them to argue. And it's a manipulation tactic that they'll use to get a ruse up out of you. And you understand that sometimes people will do it aggressively, or they'll do it passive aggressively, where other people cannot see it. And so you might realize in time, like, oh, the best technique to handle these people, especially in your youth, if you don't understand other ways to fight, without having to use your hands, you develop a mentality. Okay, when I see certain people that display these type of attention-seeking behavior, or they're trying to embroil me in drama, the better response is not to give in to it, and not to acknowledge it, and not to acknowledge that person. And you understand that when you do this, it's going to starve that person out, and then they're going to run away, because you understand what they're doing. You understand? So you don't speak up, not out of fear, not out of weakness. You don't speak up because you know it's fruitless. You don't go back and forth and argue with a damn fool. You understand it's folly. You understand what I'm saying? And so and with me, and I know other people have feelings too, but you know what the alternative is when you do engage with these type of individuals. It's just exhausting. You going back and forth and having fruitless fights, and you oftentimes find yourself in situations where you're getting in a lot of trouble because you're going back and forth with a fool. And again, these people, they can be very sneaky, so they're hiding behind the scenes, and they're doing things behind everybody else's back. So it looks like they're an angel in everybody else's faces, but you already know what it is with this individual, whereas they probably got everybody else fooled. And so, with all that being said, again, you got to understand, sometimes you got to look at life from the perspective of the other people, not necessarily from yourself. Because if you're looking at it primarily from yourself, you'll still find yourself in situations or scenario where you either might be confused or irritated, or like just feeling depressed in the area that you're in because of the people that's around you. And so that's extremely important, because you're thinking, you be in your head so much, you think that everybody else think like you think everybody else move like you think. And so you understand that I'm not going to respond because this is a foolish person. I'm not going to respond because it's silly to go back and forth. I'm not going to respond because I already understand going back and forth with fools will lead to destructive like outcomes, maybe jail, hell, the grave. You know what I'm saying? Like it could end you up in places, and that you definitely do not want to be. And then you'll look back in hindsight like, dang, man, I should have never made that decision. The best decision was to be quiet. The best decision was to do this, because we're not doing so. The this person is coming at you. You see that these people, they're coming at you with a certain purpose, a certain reason. It's not genuine. It's crouched in some type of deceit, maybe envy, jealousy, or whatever. But you already understand what it is. So in the past, you more likely got in trouble when you did respond. In the past, all it did was make the problem, the scenario, even worse than what it was before, because of the consequences that come going back and forth with these type of people. It's like a child in a classroom. And I don't know if you've ever been around kids, but adults do this too. So that's why, like, a lot of adults, like, this behavior doesn't change, but you'll see, like, in the background, kids will be antagonizing another child. Like, when the teachers and stuff like that are not listening or watching, or the mom or whatever, they'll antagonize one child. They'll do it in passive aggressive ways, and they know what they're doing to get at that child. You know what I'm saying? And so oftentimes what happened eventually is that child they lash out, and then they start to fight the person that's irritating them and doing this and this and this and this. And then the teacher turns around and go run to the person that's actually fighting the aggressor, which is actually the victim. But the victim looks like they are the aggressor, the bully, because now they're swinging. They're trying to fight this person off that's doing passive aggressive stuff. And so it's easy when the teacher comes over. It'll be very easy to take the child that's like the aggressor or fighting, which is really the victim, and suspend them or give them some type of reparation. And then the other individual, they'll hide back and hide and act like they didn't do anything. They're like, they don't know what's going on, or they're doing things from a third party position, meaning they're not directly getting their hands dirty. They're getting somebody else to go get their hands dirty. But and so as a result, they're protected. And so when the teacher comes to them, they're like, oh, I don't know what happened. It wasn't me. I didn't even do anything wrong. I don't understand. And so it's hard to even, chastise that child, even though the teacher might know that, the child that is the true perpetrator, they might know the nature of that child and how that child behaviors already. So they already know deep down inside, like, they are truly at fault, but the teacher has their hand tied because they now got to punish the doggone aggressor. And then if they were to punish the other child, what would they say? Parent, that I had to suspend your child too, because your child was in some he say, she says. Oftentimes parents, they be mad at you, like, what are you talking about? My son, so they ain't hit nobody, they ain't do nothing. So how you know it was my son? How you know it was my daughter? Da 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 da. Again, even the parents might even know the nature of that child, but the child that is truly the victim and that had fought back, they're continuously finding themselves in this loop where they are the ones that's continuously getting in trouble because they're being seen as the aggressor, and they are physically hitting people. Whereas those who are hiding behind the shadows, that's manipulating everything, that's working from third party persons to antagonize the other child or whatever the case may be, they're always safe from harm. So this is the same thing that will happen in your everyday life as you grow up. These dynamics don't change. There could be a third party person that's not handling you directly, or they're doing things in such a way where they can easily have plausible deniability. They'd be like, oh, I didn't know what I was doing. That was an accident. Like, oh, I didn't know that. They'll play dumb, knowing doggone well they know what they're doing, And that could be extremely frustrating to deal with. And so, again, you might adopt this mentality of staying silent for these reasons, because you understand the outcome if you go back and forth with these type of people is not good. You are always the one that ends up in the worst rep. But in the same vein that you don't say something, you don't realize that people, they taking that as a weakness. They taking it as that you are weak or that you are stupid and that you don't understand. You understand? And so, that's why it's so important oftentimes to check reality from the perspective of the other person, in the sense that you might think one way, but they think the complete opposite. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't have the same type of mindset as you. And again, some people would be thinking that, oh, I'm walking all over this person. And again, this could be a tricky thing to do to not respond to people, because yes, there's an element where if you're not careful, you're not responding to things, people will be walking all up over you. You'll be letting too much stuff slide, or you'll be not engaging too much to the point where people are walking over you on a certain, they can say whatever they want to say or whatever. And you're silent. Yes, not out of fear, but out of that you ain't going to go back and forth with a fool. So you have to understand sometimes the delicate balance between responding and not responding, and how to respond in these scenarios with these certain type of individuals, and understand that they take your silence for stupidity. They take it as a weakness. They think that you don't understand. You got to understand how most other people work. When other people are slighted or something happens or jaded in any way, shape, or form, these manipulators, again, just like how you had the scenario with the child in the classroom, they understand that most people, they're going to go back and forth with this person, or they're going to try to go fight that person directly. Which is not necessarily wrong, but they also, the manipulator, the person that's behind the scene, that's playing a second, third party person, they understand that their hands are clean, proverbially speaking, that they haven't been doing anything directly, so they can't get nothing's going to happen. And it seems as though they're always the victim, and they know how to play that role. They know how to hide, and they know how to play one way in other people's faces, and then play one way in another person's face. These people are very good and very skilled at what they do. So, but with all that being said, the best way to handle these people is silence, because what they're looking for is your attention. And in life in general, you got to learn how to fight. Not only learn how to fight, but understand when to pick your battles. And when I say learn how to fight, there's different ways to fight without your fist, because you cannot just go outside and keep on hitting on people when they piss you off and they make you mad. That's not a sustainable life. What you're going to do when you go to the workforce, or you need clients, you're a business person, and you have this dispute, are you always going to be swinging? No, you're going to easily start to find yourself in situations where you're going to be losing money, or potentially end up in the prison system. You know what I'm saying? And again, people, they operate in passive aggressive manners. That's how they operate and how they move. And they'll try to get you up out of the spot. They'll try to antagonize you. They'll try to do something to trick you up out your spot. And if you're not careful, you'll fall into their trap, trying to swing train with them. So it's important to understand how to fight. And sometimes the best way to fight is based on who that individual is and how they're moving and what their tactics is. And what I mean with that is you are not going to handle every animal the same. You're not going to handle a giraffe like you would handle a lion. You will not come in like and handle, a zebra like you would a little chihuahua on the street, a little stray dog on the street. You will handle those animals differently based on their nature, based how they move, and based on their patterns. So sometimes when you are in these scenarios, especially if it's in a place where it's like a work environment, or sometimes it's like, with clients or whatever, or maybe it's even out there on the street, sometimes you got to understand the propensity of what could occur. Like, what is the final outcome if I do react in a certain type of way, or I say things in a certain type of way, whatever the situation is. And it takes time to really truly understand in totality what I mean, where you have to develop skills to handle different personalities and different people in a way where you keep your integrity, but at the same time you check in people without having to necessarily put your hands on them. And again, silence is one of the biggest ways. Oftentimes manipulative or toxic people, they will also use this tactic of silence, but they use it in the complete opposite way. They use silence as a way to break people down, like the silent treatment. People, they do that stuff as a method to break you down, especially if you want some type of validation or love from this individual. They will oftentimes use the silent treatment on you, and they're using it for manipulative purposes. And what that is they're trying to get you, they're trying to change you. They're trying to change you into something that they want you to be. And the silent treatment is used as a tactic to break you down. You're going to run up after a person who's out of the blue, out of nowhere, is silent on you. And then oftentimes, especially if they're the type that will never open up and never say, they oftentimes will never do that. It's like you're trying to pry them open to figure out why they're upset with you, because they'll never tell you why they're upset with you or whatever. They just give you the silent treatment out of the blue. Sometimes they just do it just because they want to mess with you. Other times they do it because you did something and they didn't like it. But oftentimes they won't tell you why they're upset. They will, but this is the point where they want you to start to run up after them and pry open and try to figure out why. And then now they got you walking on eggshells, meaning that you're more so timid and you're not confident because you don't understand where the landmines are. So you're afraid to step on another landmine when y'all up, when you and this other individual is out of that period of them using the silent treatment on you. You know what I'm saying? That's a huge psychological tool that people use, is this silent treatment. It's a sense of isolating you without physically doing it. Again, it's like a third party way that they're getting at you without having to actively do something. They're passively doing something, but the effect is just as strong, if not worse, oftentimes, because again, they can keep on denying that they're not doing anything. So they'll deny the existence of what they're doing. They'll deny that anything is wrong, but there's obviously something wrong and they won't say nothing about it. And then again, if you want love and validation from this individual, you're going to run after them and try to pry them over to figure it out. While you're doing so, especially if y'all get up out that doggone silent treatment, you're now walking on eggshells, hoping that you're not going to say something or do something to blow up the situation, and then they go into another silent treatment. And what you don't even realize is you're chasing up after this individual, and you changing yourself little by little, bit by bit, and you don't even understand. That's why sometimes if these relationships end, or even while you're in these relationships, you out of the blue will start to realize that you don't know who you are. And the reason being is because you've been trying so hard and focusing so hard to go pry this person up and get up out of this silent treatment. You see how the silent treatment on the other side is used against you as a weapon? And it's a very, very, very effective tool, extremely effective tool. And it oftentimes works when it's somebody that actually, you want love and validation of some kind from. It will work heavily on you or an individual that people use that on. Okay. But on the other side, when you're using a silent treatment or you're using that silent stance, you're not doing it from a perspective where you're hurting people. You're using it from a perspective where you're trying to protect yourself. Because when you're silent, you keep everything in, you know what I'm saying? And when people don't know your triggers and they don't understand like what gets you to tick and stuff like that, they can't get what they want up out of you, that emotional reaction. They can't get you to run up after them or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And in a lot of ways, what they're trying to do is the reverse. Now, those very same people that will use the silent treatment on you will run up after you, trying to pry you open to try to figure out and pick your brain. And it's not like, again, it's not like you're trying to do that. It's just natural what's going to happen because of how these people move. And these very same people think that, oh, this person's using a silent treatment and bop, bop, bop. But just and I know I'm getting a little bit off, but I'm saying like this technique of silence for your part, it works on a lot of levels. But one of the biggest levels that you really try to understand is that people don't operate like you and they don't move like you simply because you're being silent, and you understand why, because you're not trying to go back and forth with a damn fool, and you're not trying to put yourself. People will take that as a weakness and they'll take it as stupidity. So oftentimes people, they will ramp it up whatever they're doing towards you if you don't say something or if you don't check it. You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to learn when to check something and when to fight. You got to pick your battles, when to fight. And oftentimes when people are being disrespectful, sometimes you got to really check people in the very beginning. And if possible, if whatever the behavior is, if you can get away, they got to go. They got to go. They got to go. Because when you check them and you set up boundaries and they're crossing those boundaries, trust and believe me, that relationship is never going to go anywhere. If it's a personal relationship, and I don't care if it's a familial relationships, meaning like family, I don't care if it was a friendship, I don't care if it's like a romantic relationship, whatever the situation is, when people don't respect your boundaries, they don't respect you. And that's point blank, period. So in those cases, you really got to let these people go. And I know that's easier said than done, and that takes time. But you really got to let people like this, because they're disrespecting you. They don't respect you. And if somebody don't respect you, y'all not going to have no type of relationship whatsoever. So that's one. If they don't respect your boundaries, that's one. But, outside of that, if they don't, outside of that, you just got to understand, like, if people with this silence, you got to extricate yourself and learn when to engage and when not to engage, and in picking your battles. You truly got to pick your battles wisely, because if not, you're going to be fighting everybody that jumps into your way. And I'm telling you, the devil will happily keep on putting fools inside your way, and you'll never be able to get where you need to go in life. Okay. So that's why the silent treatment is so effective and important. These people, they want attention from you. And so what do? You don't give them what they want. Okay. You don't give them what they want. You thinking like, oh yeah, no, ain't nobody gonna say this to me. Ain't nobody gonna do this. And again, there's a difference between somebody just saying something or whatever, when they trying to get up under your nerve. Like, some people, they say some disrespectful stuff. That's completely different. That's completely different. But I'm talking about people who doing passive aggressive stuff, and you know what they're doing and they know what they're doing. But every time you say something, they're going to try to deny it. And especially if you're in other places where you're like in a workplace, oftentimes the best thing to do is to record everything that y'all doing and have minimal contact with these individuals as much as possible. Get everything in writing and potentially get everything on camera if y'all is in the area, because these people they're just professional liars. Get emails, this and this and this and this, and be as transparent and open, and try to have a third party person that is there, if possible, that will aid in telling the truth. Because these type of people, they're not going to stop. You got to understand, when you come in contact with people like this, there is no convincing them of anything else. You can't sit there. And have conversations with them like they're a rational adult. They're not. They're completely not irrational adults. They're all over the place. They're manipulating. They want to get whatever they want. They really don't care about you. It's all about them. So you have to learn how to protect yourself, again, without having to swing all the doggone time. I'm telling you, that stuff is not going to last long if you swing on everybody or you shoot up everybody. Unless it's the wild, wild west. We're not in the wild, wild west. And oftentimes, 9 times out of 10, with these type of individuals, when you decide to come at these people physically, you will always be the one that's going to lose 9.999 times out of 10, especially as you get older and these people are professionals. This is why sometimes when you're silent towards people, you do it in a way where you can acknowledge what they're doing, but not having to react to what they're doing. And this takes time. It takes patience. It takes a lot of you knowing yourself, not giving in and giving people what they want, which is your emotions, which is your reactions, which is your attention. That's what they want. They want you to go back and forth with them and argue with them and do all this crazy stuff all doggone day. These are foolish people, and it's not to be disrespectful, but when I'm talking about a foolish person, a lot of foolish people, they're fools and they don't ever want to change. They don't want to change. And I think that that's the difference between an ignorant person and a foolish person. An ignorant person is kind of like a child. A child has ignorant shit. They don't understand. There's a lack of understanding, and it's not necessarily because of that child's fault. It's just attributed to their age, their environment, or whatever the situation is. But oftentimes, People who are healthy and productive, even though when they realize that they've been foolish or whatever, or they've been ignorant of something, they tend to change. They're trying to find ways to change, even if it doesn't happen overnight. They're aware of it, and in some way, shape, or form, they start to correct that problem when they know it's wrong. Whereas other people, they know it's wrong, or they don't really want to care if it's wrong. Those are foolish people, and that's what I'm talking about. These relationships will never be fruitful in any way, shape, or form. They will never be productive. You will do nothing more but these people do nothing more but drag you through the depths of hell. They will drag you to the depths of hell. Okay, so but yeah, with using silence against these individuals, remember that it's like in your head, yes, it's a protection. In your head, you know what they're doing, you know what they're about. In your head, you know that, but in their head, they don't. They don't. They think that it's a weakness, and so sometimes, again, that's why you got to check people if necessary, if you can. Other times, you got to excommunicate yourself. When people are being foolish like that, especially when there's some grown adults, you don't have to explain anything to these type of people. You just cut them off and leave them be. Remove it, because there's no fruitful relationship. There's nothing there. It will never be anything like that, especially when they're grown adults. And when you get up and you do these things, you cannot do it with any type of remorse. You got to be cold-hearted a lot of times, from the simple fact that you got to understand that these people these scenarios is going to kill you. They're not there to build you up. They're not there to help you. They're there to kill you. Will you sit there and be kind and whatever to a person that's trying to kill you on the street? Will you be friendly and trying to let them back into your house and everything like that, knowing doggone well this person's a killer trying to kill you? Absolutely not. Would you treat them? No, you're going to treat them a certain type of way, because you know you have to protect yourself. So in the same vein, you do that with people who are coming against you. But oftentimes it's important to be silenced towards people, in the sense that don't give in to their BS. Don't give in to whatever they're trying to initiate this drama. Don't give into it. And again, one of the biggest ways that you don't give into it, especially if it's a relationship that you do not have, there's no obligation, you got to cut it off. And when I say obligation, I mean sometimes business or money, work or whatever. That's more so like an obligation. And then even in those situations, sometimes you got to find an exit strategy, or to get that person about your face, because there's going to be a toxic relationship. But outside of that, like work and something that you have to go in to make money or something like that, the rest of them doggone relationships, they can fall by the wayside. And in time, I'm telling you, I know that might sound harsh. I know a lot of people, but sometimes you got to be really cold-hearted with people, because if not, they're going to drag you to the depths of hell, and they don't care. They're in it for themselves. They like it when they like upset you. They like it when they get you, and they love it. One of the worst things you can do to a toxic, manipulative, toxic person is to ignore them. It's to stop giving them energy. It's to stop talking. They're going to run up behind you and try to figure out what's wrong with you, and try to figure out, they'll use anything that they can. They'll get other people to come at you. They'll do whatever it takes to try to get in and trying to open you up so they can get in and get at your core again and take. They hate the silent. They hate the silence. But these very same manipulative people, they use silence to break other people down, to break you down. They more likely, especially if it's a relationship that y'all been together for a while, of any kind, they're more likely using silent treatment on you to break you down, to make you feel like you was nothing, to run up after them to figure out what the problem is, like as if everything is always your fault, to have you walking on eggshells, to be timid. When you're timid, you don't know who you are. You're not confident in the steps that you take. You're not resolute. And as a result, other people that can come in and easily puppet you. People who use that silent treatment, they're trying to get you to stop. They're trying to get you to focus more so on them and not yourself. It's to continuously give in to them and not yourself. So you lose yourself. So now they can completely control you. They can tell you who you are, how you are, what you've done. And when you don't know who you are, and you don't, and because you're focusing so much on other people, you're focusing on the needs of other people so much, you inevitably will always be able to be puppeted. You're like Pinocchio at that point. You will be dragged all over the great USA. And you won't understand how you're in this place. You'll be extremely depressed, because now you're doing things to make other people happy in comparison to yourself. And is it important to make other people happy, do things? Yes, in moderation. Everything's in moderation. The very same individuals, they're going to use guilt, shame, and whatever else they can conjure up. But guilt and shame are the two major tools that people will use to try to get you to do whatever they want you to do. And when they've already broken you down with a silent treatment, and you are already running after their validation of some kind, and you don't even understand the dynamic that you're in, guilt and shame will get you every time. You're like a toy robot. Again, you're like Pinocchio. They're easily able to get at you through guilt and shame. Thing is, when the shoe is on the other foot and now they're in a position and you use guilt and shame on them, they'll come with every excuse under the books. Everything is always justified with what they do. But when it comes to you, you're always in the wrong. Isn't that interesting? You're always in the wrong. They always use guilt and shame. But when the shoe is on the other foot, they're angels and they have to do what is best for them. They will never make those sacrifices for you. They will never succumb to those. And that's how you know people, they use the guilt and shame complex as a way to whip you. It's a whip. It's a button to push you back into your position. And so once you let go of the guilt and shame, you're very much able to recognize that the only thing and the bond of the foundation that you have with a lot of people in your life is just that. The only bond is there is through the guilt and the shame. And once you remove those two, there's nothing there. That's absolutely nothing there. There's no relationship of any kind. I ain't got no love or nothing like that. This was never nothing. The only bond was there was a manipulative guilt and shame complex. You didn't know who you are because of the silent treatments and things of that nature. So, and you might have adopted ways to defend yourself, survival techniques, survival strategies to go and handle toxic and corrosive people. It's that silent treatment, but understand that silent treatment, I'm telling you, or not even the silent treatment that you're giving to people, but your silence. You got to understand that everybody don't think like you and they don't move like you. They will see that stuff as a weakness. They think that you're stupid and you don't catch on to what they're doing, that you don't know. And sometimes you can use that to your advantage. Let people think that they're getting away with whatever they're doing. Let people think that you're stupid so they can keep on exposing who they are. Because people don't even realize that they expose themselves so much. They say too much. They do too much. They do because people thinking that they're getting over. And when people think that they have a position of power, that they don't need you, or they feel like they're getting over on you, more of their character is going to be exposed. People's character is displayed when they're in positions of power, not when they don't have power. Because when they do have power, they don't have to do anything that they don't want to do. But when they are not in a position of power, of course, they're going to have certain behaviors. Of course, they're going to have like more godlike qualities. Of course, they're going to seem to be humble, kind, and this because they don't have the power to do whatever they want. But when they do, watch what happens. And that is the true mark of a person's character. And so that's why sometimes in your darkest night times of your life, when people have the power to help or to aid or whatever the case, whatever they did at that time is their true character. And you got to believe it, not what they're trying to come back now with. After God got you about your situations and blessed you, it was before. What were they doing before? And so it's a crafty technique that God oftentimes teaches you as an individual is to be silent at times. When you're silent, your senses, your other senses, they pick up in the sense that you see more that you would have never saw had you been up there talking all the time and open up your mouth. You heard more. You're able to hear more. When you're open and you're like an open book, people, they can hide themselves so much better because now they know what you're thinking. They know what you know about them. And so they're able to manufacture their personality, manufacture what they're doing or whatever they're trying to do behind the scenes. And they can keep on hiding it. They'll keep on maneuvering like a snake as long as they know what you know. How do they know that? When you open up your mouth and you say something. And so, again, with that being said, this is in no way, shape, or form. I'm telling you, you got to go out there and be a damn doormat and let people do. No. It's an understanding when to talk and when not to. It's picking your battles. You go out there and you try to win every battle. You'll never win. You'll never win that war. You will always constantly be stuck in continuous dramatic relationships with people that's going nowhere fast. You will look up 40 years later and you'll be like, where the hell has my life gone? I've been spending all this time going back and forth with people my entire life. And the reason being is because you got to learn how to cut people who are like that out your life, not go back and forth with them, not give them more attention. It's to remove them. You can't hurt them. If you do, more times than not, you're going to go to prison. So the next best thing is to preserve your peace, is to remove them about your life if possible, or to reduce the interaction that you have with them as much as possible to ensure that you have your back, that you are very focused in your interactions with them. You're very straightforward. There's no emotions or anything. And if they try to get up off contact out other than business, it's a shutdown with relationships that you have to be engaged with. And again, family, you do not need to be engaged with. Friends, you do not. Past with lovers and relationships, no. I'm talking about there's certain things with money making or whatever your ability to navigate. Yes, there's some relationships you have to sustain. But if a person is toxic, that doesn't mean you need to be in their face 24/7 going back and forth with them. You see what I'm saying? And then if it gets to a point where they don't want to be around, sometimes it's best to let people go. It's best to let them go and to keep people, because you got to understand, simply because people got the same blood as you, or they got the same face features, or they got the same skin tone, their spirit ain't the same as yours. It's going nowhere fast, and they're going to drag you through the mud. They're going to drag you through hell. You're going to die at 60 years old, 55 years old, through all the stress and the drama and the chaos that people be putting you through. And you be thinking this out of an obligation. But oftentimes these very same individuals, they do not care when the obligation is on the other foot, when they are in a position that they need to act like these titles that they use, like a mother, father, sister, brother, auntie, cousin, friend, foe, lover, ex-lover, spouse, community member, this. When it's their time to show those titles and express those in the best way, they don't do it. They don't do it at all. They do the complete opposite. They are more so an enemy more than they are a friend. They're your adversary. They're not your ally. You have more people on the street that treat you better than the people that you've known your entire life. And that's just facts. Why? It's because people's spirit. And that's what you got to look at when you're looking at people, not their flesh and blood. Your flesh and blood will kill you. They will kill you. And when I say flesh and blood, I'm just not talking about family. I'm talking about people that look just like you. I'm talking about people that you've helped, that you've gone overboard to aid and whatever, to build them up to, that you've given to poured in their bosom or whatever. I'm talking about that. Not even necessarily just family. I'm talking about flesh and blood will kill you. It don't matter what you've done for people. If their spirit ain't right, they ain't right. And that's just what you got to understand and go by. And so once you develop that, it'd be so much easier to say, people got to go. But in general, to bring it all the way back, understand the power of sometimes your silence, and that your silence is good and that you need to do that. But with everything in life, there's a balance. Understand that simply because you're being silent and you know why you're being silent, you're not being silent because you're afraid. You're being silent because it's stupid to go back and forth with a fool. But fools, they need anything to make themselves feel better about themselves. They need any type of attention, any type of external stimuli that reinforces a false ideal of who they are, a false image of who they are, something that builds up their ego and their pride because they have nothing.